Good morning, and welcome to this discussion of police brutality and mass incarceration in the United States. I'd like to introduce my two colleagues, Nnamdi and Trayvon Reed. Today, we're going to be focusing on more what we believe to be the solutions to the problem, but first, I'd like to ask y'all a few questions. So, I know you were raised in South Carolina, so as you've gotten older, how has your perception of the police changed, and how do you see them now?
Being raised in South Carolina, it was more of just fuck the police in general, just because I'm in the South and I was in dirt roads, and it was just a very, very southern place.
Right.
But now growing up, I now see that we need police no matter what at the end of the day. But there are police out there who don't do their job correctly,
right,
or just too trigger happy, or just
absolutely. So with that being said, have you been affected by police brutality in your life, or someone that you know?
Yeah. My father, he's a taxi cab driver, and he comes in encounter with a whole number of people, and he constantly drives downtown. And there was an incident where he almost got into an accident because there was a reckless driver, and the police showed up on scene, but immediately handcuffed my father for no particular reason at all.
Okay.
And it was a very stressful situation for him, and he ended up getting a ticket and getting yelled at by this power-hungry cop, and he told me about it, and I was furious.
No. Okay. Well, speaking on that, branching off of that, how do you feel the prison system affects how the police operate? In other words, like, what does the prison industrial complex, how they treat their inmates, how does that affect how police operate?
It's not really how they treat them, it's how they try to fill them as fast as they can, because they try to build them as fast as they try to fill them. And that says a lot, and at the same time, they're getting all these militaristic weapons, or weapons and tactics and all these other things, so things like that.
Right. So they as you said, they are trying to just bring in massive amounts of people, and they do a lot of labor in there, and that's pretty much slave labor. It's free labor off them, and the police have a quota to fill out. So what do you feel are things that not only the police but the American people can do to help stop this problem? Training. Better training.
How are you gonna train someone to enforce the law a couple months, but someone to defend the law years? Right.
That is a good point. Nnamdi, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. 6 months is too short. We find cops getting power hungry and very angry. And
do you think there may be like more psychological tests maybe beforehand?
Okay. Yes, something like that. Definitely that too. Training too at the same time, and plus being in your own city or your own town may make a huge difference, because you actually are trying to protect something that you grew up living in.
Exactly. Okay. So I've heard someone say that that another big thing is there's not a lot of black police officers. Do you think that's a big problem?
That's actually not very true, because they try to hire a lot of diversity, especially with unions. They hire a lot of diverse people. So I wouldn't say that's necessarily true.
Okay, but do you feel like that? If there were, I feel like there's a huge stigma of the white cop versus the black cop, or versus the white cop versus the black man. So
but like you said, the white cop versus the black cop, because what they try to do is they use the black cop to come and try to relate to the brother, in various ways.
Okay.
And that thin blue line is pretty strong. They won't rat any of their fellow officers out. So
yeah, that's
like
true.
say if one officer committed a crime and that black officer saw, he would have to, or things like that. Even the clean officers, even non-black officers, any clean officer.
Right. So what are things that we can do though? What are things that the black community and the white community can do to help mend, the relationship between police officers and the public?
I don't know. It's a very hard question.
And it can go a lot of ways. That's the thing. There is a lot of. The world we live in right now is very divisive, I'd say, obviously, and like you said before, you grew up, it was fuck the police and all that, but now I've come to the same realization, we need police. There's bad people out there.
Exactly. But when it comes to that person trying to protect us killing an innocent person, a life that wasn't even on that path. Feel me?
Yeah. So, I mean, we've had instances here in Minnesota, exactly, and obviously this has been going on for a lot longer.
Oh yeah.
And how big is race an issue? Like, how big is race? How big of a factor does race play? I'd say in police brutality and
since it's such a bit since it's always brought up, and people say it's not that big. Is just for the topic of it being brought up should show you how big the topic it actually is, and how serious it actually is.
It's a major factor.
Major factor.
And I know, being from a white perspective, I can't personally say I've experienced that feeling of being in fear of my life of a police officer. So, I don't know if you guys can shed light on that at all.
To be honest, like, in my point of view, I've never felt that I've had to go to the point of fearing for my life. I've always had the threat of fearing, like, oh man, I might go to jail for the night, or I might go to jail for a while. My mom's gonna be like, oh, you're in jail, I'm not gonna come see you. Same with my grandma. It wouldn't just hurt me, it would hurt the people connected to me, the chain that's connected to me.
Okay.
Spiral effect.
Exactly. So, and that's another thing that, police are accused of breaking up families, but also, do you think that it starts at home? Like, you need to have a good foundation at home, and raising good children, a good family to have this. And I mean, I'm not saying that that's the main cause of this, but if you don't have a good upbringing, you might not make the best choices later in life. So that's obviously something that we can do.
But I'm one of those people who says that I can say I've done that. I didn't have a good upbringing, but I taught myself better because I didn't really have those role models.
Right. Okay. Well, so Nnamdi, what would you think is something that the people can do just to make it easier for the cops? Because we know, like, we say that thing, just follow what they say and you won't get shot, but I mean, like, that's kind of...
Well, number one thing I say is know your laws. Period.
Okay.
Cops can do very little if you know your laws. They're trained to lie. So I think that we need to study on the laws and figure out what's the essence of our Constitution. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, we need to know these things, so when we do come in contact with a police officer and he's out of control, we need to know what to do and how to go about your next steps.
Alright, well, thank you guys very much for the great conversation.
No problem.
Until next time, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Alright, well, have a good night, and thank you very much for listening.
I wanted to do the nigga handshake.